when he suggested it, I just thought, like, I cannot express just how much I want to get involved. Dungeons and Dragons is something that I've wanted desperately to try for about 2 years now. And actually, before I keep rambling, I should probably mention that in this video, what we're going to do is I'm going to go through the entire first session of the campaign with you guys. I did stream it, but it was really scuffed, so I'm going to explain what I'm going to do for the next stream. And in addition to that, you can check the description below for Beetle's Twitch as well, his YouTube and Twitch, because he streamed it obviously from the DM's perspective, which is probably much more like enjoyable for a viewer, because I guess he's kind of the conductor of the whole thing, so he has access to all of the assets at hand a lot easier than we do, obviously because he can't give us anything prior to the campaign, because it probably would ruin a lot of the surprises and stories. So whilst Beetle did sort of send us assets as we were going, it's not quite as easy for me to pull those up on stream without it being a bit scuffed. So I would definitely, for the next stream, which I think we've decided is going to be on Saturday. Yeah, I would go and watch it from Beetle's perspective for sure, but I will be streaming it as well. But I can't promise it will be as clean or enjoyable for a viewer. Yeah, we're going to go through all of the first session of the one shot. I know in theory, I think they're meant to be, as the name suggests, done in one session, but you'll see why that wasn't possible this time. So this is probably going to extend over 2 sessions, probably get it concluded and wrapped up in the next one. But what's even more exciting, for me at least, is that the first session was so fun. It was such a good time and I enjoyed it so much that we've decided that we're going to kind of set up an official Dungeons and Dragons ASMRcraft associated group, and Beetle is going to be setting up a YouTube channel. He is definitely, the orchestrator of the whole thing, really. It's his idea, he's the brains and the creative mind behind all of it, so all credit goes to him. I'm just sitting here like an excited child, like going, yes, I can't wait for the next session, I can't wait for the next campaign, purely because of how much I've wanted to play and how much I knew I would enjoy it, but then even more so excited by just how much more I enjoyed it than I expected to. stats. So he's got 17 strength, which is crazy, gives him +3. 12 dexterity, so +1 there. Constitution of 15 gives him +2. Intelligence of 10, Wisdom 13, and Charisma 8. He has 15 HP total. He's down to 11 after the fight. Armor class of 15. He has his hit dice is 1d12, and I think that is a result of some sort of, well, that probably just shows I don't know what hit dice is, so we'll just move on. He's also got 30 foot of speed, +1 initiative, 14 passive perception, and +2 proficiency. He has a shield, and he has the advantage of an unarmed strike, which I know he was talking about a lot on stream. Rage, you can enter rage as a bonus action. Don't know how that works. Advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws. Gain a bonus damage dice when using melee weapons. Resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. And we'll quickly go through his features and traits. So he's also got dark vision of 60 foot, relentless endurance. When you would reach 0 HP, instead go to 1 HP. Savage attack. When you roll a critical hit, then you can roll an additional damage dice. And unarmored defense. When not wearing armor, your AC is 10 plus the dex modifier and a con modifier. I have no idea what those are. But yeah, when we got to the character development part for him, he basically said that he'd gone through the majority of it himself beforehand, which is very demi of him. And what was quite funny is that he created Ergon, obviously before we were on stream. Largely anyway, we went through a few things together, but I had a very vague idea of who I wanted to create. He had a very well formed idea, and on stream he basically said, like, I've created this character obviously because he likes the idea of Urgot and his build, but also because he knew we had not talked about it before. I promise. He knew exactly the type of character I was going to want to build, which was basically a support focused, background level wizard type build. A support basically from the sidelines. I didn't want to have a kind of up close, heavy melee, strength and defense type of character. I wanted one with high intelligence who could do little spells from the background, and outside of combat I could use those same abilities to sort of investigate and find things out. And so it was just hilarious how well he had built his character to work with the character he expected me to build. So absolutely amazing from Demi. I'm not even slightly surprised that that's how he approached it, which is also hilarious. But I think rather than me keep rambling on about those things, we got that done within a couple of hours, which was crazy. But then we started the campaign for real. So what I think I'll do is I will read Beetle has very kindly provided me with several assets, as well as some of his reading or preparation, storyline stuff, lore from the first session, and he's blanked out things that would be spoilers that we maybe didn't discover or didn't go through the first session. So I'm going to read his introduction, which sort of set the scene for the start of everything really. And in fact I might just read the whole thing, but I might interject with bits where we got involved. Okay, so our adventure begins in a small isolated village named Bleakwater. It's nestled deep inside nervously as they look to you for an answer. We're speaking to Leo the elf. So we've got a bit more that I can read, but I think what's quite funny is that at this stage, and Beetle told us afterwards, was that the probably hour that we spent, maybe even an hour and a quarter that we spent in the village at this point, before really starting our journey, was all sort of on the spot, figured out by Beetle. There was a lot to see and a lot to do in the village, it turned out, but he hadn't really accounted for us being so intrigued by exploring the village. He thought that we'd want to get on with the adventure, which would eventually be explained by Leo. And in fact, let me quickly just go through that bit. So I'll read just what Beetle has put down as his sort of DM notes, because whilst the bit I just read was all like introductory verbatim stuff, the rest as DM, I think he just kind of, came up with as he was going. Otherwise it's a bit too scripted, which he did absolutely brilliantly for someone who, as far as I'm aware, has not DM'd before. Beetle was utterly fantastic, and like I was saying, and I'll reiterate, I highly recommend going and checking out his YouTube and Twitch. So he says, explain that they have always known that something lived in the woods. This is coming from Leo, the elf who me and Demi have just met. They would leave out goats as offerings to it, so they wouldn't hurt anyone in the village. But then the villagers started going missing in the night. They believe it might be some sort of witch. They find magical residue in the air around the villager after losing someone, but they really have no idea. Everyone in the village is a wizard or wizard in training. They don't use magic during the fall because that is their god season, and it would be disrespectful, because they need to have faith in their god to help them through the season without outside forces such as magic. No one has used magic in months, but it's possible the villagers being taken use magic in a fit of desperation against whatever it is. There is a distinct trail leading from the village off into the forest where they believe the creature is coming from. So this was obviously the introduction to us of what's kind of going on. Goes on to say the villager will lead them to the area. The opening into the forest is a clearly well-trodden path, though it looks new. The fog covers much of the area and makes it incredibly hard to see more than a few feet into the forest. Strangely, they can hear birds calling and animals walking around the forest floor. As they walk, okay, let me just stop there actually. So that was Beetle kind of assumed reasonably that we would be introduced and then say, okay, we'll start our adventure. We had a few questions for Leo, the elf who introduced the whole thing, but Demi was, and understandably, was much more wary of Leo, the elf. He was actually quite, I wouldn't say convinced, but he was very investigative and was very suspicious that he might be sort of playing us, and so we decided to he wanted to look into Leo's background. He wanted to speak to other villagers to get the same story, ratify and make sure that Leo wasn't having us on and trying to scam us or trying to set us up on something. So we ended up doing a good hour or so of investigating the village, the villagers. We went to the house of the last person that went missing and found magical residue and found that we set up the Dungeons and Dragons YouTube channel. I will link